Since I like going back and listening to my old thoughts, I'm currently in the process of re-uploading some of my older videos in order to make them more compliant with YouTube's policies on reused content. But since I didn't want to do a lot of editing, here is the audio from my original review for this movie.
The Lion King has returned, but this time, the film has been reimagined to fit a photorealistic setting. Some people don't like the new aesthetic since the realism limits the fun and exaggerated animation found in the original cartoon, but others don't mind the quote-unquote live-action approach at all. So where do I stand? Well, let's start with the animation. The photorealistic technology is absolutely breathtaking. Everything looks so fucking realistic, you'll question whether or not certain shots were taken straight out of National Geographic. I completely admired the way Jon Favreau implemented this technology in The Jungle Book, but he really has perfected the craft these past couple of years. Even close-up shots of creatures that were entirely CGI look fantastically real and incredibly detailed. Favreau and company are changing the game, and likely changing the way we watch movies in general. I don't know where this technology can be implemented in the future, but I am excited about the possibilities. It's only a matter of time before we won't be able to tell when CG is utilized in blockbuster films anymore. And that realism is exactly where most of the criticism in The Lion King is coming from, since trying to make everything look so perfectly lifelike creates a disconnect with the more fantastical elements like singing and dancing and even just talking look weird. It creates an uncanny valley effect, and though you will be undeniably impressed with the visual effects, your enjoyment of the movie itself will depend on whether or not you can get over that valley. For me, I enjoyed watching these characters come to life in a photorealistic setting. I thought the whole endeavor was fun and amusing, and never did the life aesthetic ruin my enjoyment of the more fantastical nature of this musical narrative. It's a movie about lion society. The whole thing is weird from the start. Working hard to make the story feel realistic isn't going to bother me. It also helps that the characters are realized so beautifully with wonderful voice talent. Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen give standout performances as the comedic relief of Timon and Pumbaa. John Oliver is delightfully British as Zazu. J.D. McCrary and Shahadi Wright-Joseph are perfect as the young versions of Simba and Nala, almost outshining their adult counterparts. But Donald Glover and Beyoncé also give solid performances as the grown-up incarnations of Simba and Nala. The two don't deliver anything outstanding, but I enjoyed that. Their louder-than-life personalities never got in the way of their characters, allowing them to give a more reserved performance. The biggest performance I was worried about came from Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar. Ejiofor is obviously a fantastic actor, but Jeremy Irons just completely nailed the character of Scar, making him one of the most iconic villains, not just animated or Disney villains, but one of the greatest villains in cinematic history. And though Ejiofor doesn't deliver the same kind of proper and pompous, yet cowardly and confusingly sexy performance as Iron did, he is still great as Scar. It's a different, more direct, less sly interpretation of the character, but it works in this narrative. The only voice acting I didn't end up enjoying came from Eric Andre and Keegan-Michael Key as two hyenas. They just weren't funny. They have one reoccurring joke throughout the whole movie, and it just falls flat every time. You could have cut their roles out from the film, and the result would have been a movie that had tighter pacing. But of course, I can't talk about the voice cast without mentioning the great James Earl Jones, the only returning voice actor from the original film. I love hearing Jones back on screen again. Whether it's voicing the menacing Darth Vader again in Rogue One, or the most memorable and lovable father figures in movie history with Mufasa, his reprisals are just fantastic because his voice is still the best. Of course, Jones is a bit older now, so his voice is a little bit different, even if ever so slightly. But I thought this was a welcome change since it gave Mufasa a slight change in character too. He just comes across as a bit older and a little more wiser here than his animated counterpart. He may not be as lively as his original incarnation, but damn does he sure have a demanding presence. Mufasa owns every single scene that he is in. Likewise, we get to learn a few extra tidbits about the other characters we've come to love over the past 25 years as well. For example, Timon and Pumbaa don't live in their sanctuary alone. They have friends or acquaintances who make their little community feel like a lived-in society of slackers. Zazu is a loyalist to Mufasa and his bloodline. Sarabi leads the Lion Pride, and we get to see Scar develop his relationship with the hyenas. These are nice little details that help this movie have an identity of its own, giving these characters small and subtle twists that still stay true to their individual personalities. There isn't much, but any new footage made specifically for this live-action remake works quite well, and any scenes that have been altered or changed to better fit the photorealistic setting also work. Not everything that comes from a 2D animation was going to translate well into a live-action background, so any changes were made for the best. Otherwise, the rest of The Lion King is just a shot-for-shot remake of the original, and this is another point of contention for most people. If The Lion King is such a perfect movie that even the filmmakers adapting the project didn't want to alter the story in any way, then why remake the movie at all when audiences still have the original, which is perfect in nearly every way? It's not like the story needed to be introduced to a new generation. Everybody has seen The Lion King, and it's not even that old yet. So what was the point of having the movie remade? Was it a simple cash grab by Disney? Sure, yeah, I'm positive Disney wouldn't have made the movie if they had thought it wasn't going to make money, but that's just the nature of the business. Every film that is made is inherently a cash grab. However, I do believe that this project was made with the best intentions. Jon Favreau strikes me as the kind of guy who is genuinely eager to work on every project he's attached to. He loves comic books, so he made Iron Man. He loves Star Wars, so he made The Mandalorian. He loves Disney, so he made The Jungle Book and The Lion King. And you can tell by his track record that all of his movies are made with a sense of sincerity and passion behind the source material. If the photorealistic adaptation of The Lion King is a shot-for-shot remake of the original, it's only because Favreau was trying to honor the legacy of the animation, which a lot of people love and consider to be the best animated movie of all time. Consider the alternative. Favreau makes a movie that is quite different from the original, and people give him shit for it because why would you change the story of a film that is such a classic? People were going to diss on this project regardless of whatever direction any filmmaker took. But Favreau did his best to respect the original, and I have to admire his efforts for that. Plus, I can only see how some people could consider this movie a disappointment only if they're comparing it too harshly against the original. If you're waiting for certain lines to be said and waiting for them to specifically be delivered in a certain way, well, that's not going to happen because new actors have their own takes on things, so they give their own new delivery. The body movements and facial expressions on the characters aren't as lively as the animation because, well, this isn't a cartoon. The realistic yellow and brown hues of the African Serengeti look muted in comparison to the beautiful and vivacious colors of the original, but that's only if you're comparing the two movies. Otherwise, the lighting and cinematography in this film is fucking incredible. If Lion King wasn't based on any pre-existing property, then it would be lauded as one of the most daring, most inspiring, most unique live-action Disney projects ever produced. I know that's a moot point, but I stand by it. I know it's so easy and tempting to compare newer movies to their predecessors. We all do it, even I do it. But I firmly believe that this movie stands on its own 2 feet, no matter how nostalgic it actually is. But this brings me to an interesting point that I brought up earlier in the year. Why do critics bash on Hollywood remakes so easily? The Upside was bashed, Lion King is getting mixed responses, yet Gloria Bell was met with critical acclaim? Why? Only because it's an indie film that focuses on the drama of a singular character? Well, that's not fair. The Lion King is a coming-of-age story about loss, death, grief, regret, guilt, responsibility, purpose, friendship, identity, legacy, moving on, gleeful nihilism, the meaningless indifference of life, the cyclical nature of life, and so much more. And these themes definitely carry over to the new film. So, is The Lion King worth seeing? Yes, I unabashedly love this movie. Anyone can enjoy this film, grown-ass adults or small-ass kids. It was especially fun to see this movie with a crowd of people who all love The Lion King, just laughing, cheering, and singing together. Certain scenes do linger on for a little too long, which I assume was to show off the technical prowess of the VFX team, and certain musical leitmotifs are annoyingly repetitive, but those are the only negative things I really have to say about the movie as a whole. Is the film as soulful and emotionally powerful as the original? Probably not, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. This is probably the second best live-action Disney adaptation, second only to The Jungle Book. Another Jon Favreau endeavor. I don't think it may be as perfect as the original, but it is still really damn good, because I would probably give The Lion King 2019 4 out of 5 stars. Thanks for watching.